I ended a decade-long friendship after witnessing my best friend's mental decline, bizarre actions, and constant manipulation. I simply need to record this somewhere. I have made the decision to end my friendship with my closest companion, someone I have known for a decade. I lost my friend to mental health issues, and there is no other way to articulate it. Witnessing her decline over the past 2 to 3 years has been exceedingly painful. I began to notice unusual behaviors in her after her former girlfriend left her. She fabricated a narrative about suffering severe emotional abuse at the hands of her ex, which took me by surprise because I had spent a significant amount of time at their home and consistently observed them being affectionate. She would occasionally mention disputes, but nothing that hinted at abusive dynamics. I believed her account of events after all. I had known her for 10 years and her ex for 3. A warning sign should have been her choice to continue residing with her ex after the breakup at my friend's insistence. Following the breakup, my friend began to exhibit some peculiar behaviors. It all started with the people she chose to connect with. My friend does not have many close friends who genuinely understand her or interact with her frequently in person. She revealed to me just 2 weeks ago that she despises most people. Therefore, when she befriended a woman battling meth addiction, I attributed it to loneliness. However, the way she spoke about others became increasingly odd. For instance, she only mentioned the meth addict to disparage their appearance or unfortunate circumstances. She also made morally ambiguous choices, such as not alerting the authorities when she witnessed a drunk mother attempting to drive with her child, not reporting to Child Protective Services when a friend of the meth addict left their children in a car while consuming meth in winter, and not seeing any issue with receiving non-consensual explicit material from her new friend. These actions were strikingly out of character compared to who she was 5 years ago. Around this time, she also developed health anxiety, continuously claiming to have serious symptoms and undergoing various tests, 2 MRIs, blood work, a colonoscopy, etc., that returned negative results. Ironically, her uncontrolled blood pressure, often reaching the hypertensive emergency levels, was an issue she refused to discuss with her doctor, despite encouragement from both myself and her now former girlfriend. After I communicated how her actions troubled me, particularly her failure to report the child left in the car, I requested a break from the friendship. She accused me of being controlling, manipulative, and codependent in response. 3 months later, we attempted to reconnect, and she finally agreed that her friendship with the meth addict was unhealthy and that she had ended it on her own. However, immediately following that, she entered into a text-based relationship with a man in Europe, engaging in sexting all night long and making plans to visit him without even knowing his real name or his profession. While this struck me as strange, I thought it was her life, and I had committed to remaining neutral about things. She mentioned experiencing an episode of psychosis, hearing command hallucinations urging her to perform actions she did not want to undertake, and developing a dependence on marijuana that undeniably intensified her anxiety. She also expressed persistent suicidal thoughts and acknowledged a long history of self-harm. She conveyed instances in which she would lose her temper, such as yelling at nurses because they were not assisting her mother swiftly enough. This was entirely new behavior. Whenever I or anyone else expressed concerns, she would become upset. Amid all this turmoil, she was in the final phases of a 10-year PhD program, a course that typically lasts 5 years. She had 5 years available to write a dissertation, but she did not begin until just 6 months ago. When she received feedback on her draft requiring revisions, she refused to address it, finding every possible excuse not to work on it. At this time, her ex-girlfriend attempted to move out, but the rental agreement collapsed due to a rat infestation. My friend appeared to be distressed by this, which seemed peculiar because I had witnessed her initiating physical affection with her ex on several occasions after the breakup, even though her ex clearly seemed uncomfortable with it. My friend kept accusing her ex of narcissistic abuse behind her back, and I will admit that her perspective on her ex influenced my own view. I began to nitpick everything her ex did, growing frustrated over minor issues, and questioning every statement made because it did not align with my friend's narrative. I was naive, and I feel terrible about this. 3 days ago, I became genuinely concerned for her after she informed me that she had wasted an entire week playing a video game. I reached out to her ex-girlfriend to inquire if my friend was okay, and her ex had similar concerns. I was also taken aback by the falsehoods my friend had shared with me, which included 1. My friend experienced a mental breakdown on the day her ex was supposed to move out and begged her to stay. 2. She had been pleading with her ex to allow her to live with her because she could not afford rent on her own. 3. She coerced her ex into paying off her credit cards after the breakup and into covering her rent through August, claiming that after May her disability scholarship would end, leaving her without income. 4. She had no plans to look for a job until after May. 5. She had made remarks about taking her own life if she did not pass her dissertation or had to move back in with her mother. 6. She ceased cleaning up after herself, allowing the kitchen to remain dirty for days and leaving laundry strewn about. 7. She had the chance to live rent-free with someone after the breakup, but turned it down, misleading her ex-girlfriend into believing that if she did not renew the lease, she would be homeless. Her ex gathered evidence to substantiate all of this, so, yes. Still, I did not intend to confront my friend with these revelations. Instead, I approached her to convey my concern and to open a dialogue about how she would cope if she could not complete her dissertation, which she was not even working on. I did not mention that I knew she had expressed thoughts of self-harm. My friend did not react. Well, she stated that I was not being helpful and expected unconditional support. I made it clear that my intention was not to make her feel better or to provide unlimited support. I was reaching out to show concern regarding her well-being. She grew increasingly angry. I told her I would give her some space, but she insisted that she did not want space. She then began to complain about me to her ex-girlfriend, who also expressed concern for my friend's mental health. They ended up having a shouting match, and my friend ultimately broke down and apologized. However, the following morning, she sent me a text stating that I was wrong for discussing my concerns with her mentally unstable and abusive ex-girlfriend. At that juncture, I informed her that the friendship was over. I was finished, permanently. I stated that I no longer felt we were healthy for one another. What I did not convey was that I no longer wanted to witness her decline, nor did I want to endure verbal abuse and insults when I attempted to be a good friend. She then heavily projected, accusing me of ruining friendships and pushing people away, essentially setting myself up for a life of loneliness. The aftermath was quite severe. Another explosive argument with her ex occurred. Then my friend vanished for an entire night before returning. Apparently, she explored the option of inpatient care the following morning and made some phone calls, but opted instead to dismiss her psychiatrist because the medications were ineffective, and the psychiatrist was unwilling to prescribe her a medication she desired, one that is not recommended for her diagnosis. She later went to an urgent care clinic and, predictably, was found to be in a hypertensive crisis. Afterward, she returned home. I am unsure whether she declined medical treatment or what occurred, and stated that her behaviors and mental state were entirely the result of hypertension and not mental illness. She then informed her ex that she was planning to live elsewhere because her ex tried to convince her that she was insane. The last thing she did was send a passive-aggressive message to a group chat we were part of, stating that she was on the brink of a stroke due to elevated blood pressure and that her poor decisions stemmed from this. She claimed that she needed to leave the state to live with family in order to escape her abusive ex-girlfriend, as she could not focus on her dissertation while under such abuse. I'm not seeking comments or reactions. I just needed to express all of this for my own sake. This entire situation has been surreal. I will miss who my friend used to be. She was wonderful for the first 7 years of our friendship. However, honestly, it is such a relief to know that it is over, and I no longer have to stress about this relationship. These recent events make me question whether she has always been truthful with me, or if she was simply exceptionally skilled at hiding her behaviors. I do not know. Story 2. I fell for my best friend during a long-distance friendship, only to discover he's still chasing other girls. Total heartbreak. My situation is really complicated. This guy has been my best friend for a year and a half now, long distance, by the way, and he always hinted that he liked me or something. Then we started to get incredibly close around August, spending nearly every minute of the day playing video games and watching movies, among other things. We always joked around and flirted, and he made me feel exceptionally special. I was always his top priority. Everyone was shipping us and all that stuff. However, I always maintained that it would never happen, that I would never fall for him because he was such a player, if you know what I mean. Then one random night, we discussed having strange feelings for one another, but we never really dove into it. Anyway, we began flirting, and he started treating me like his girlfriend, the love of his life. Unfortunately, it reached a point where I allowed him to talk to me in a sexual manner, expressing how much he desired me and how he wanted to kiss me. He even got jealous when I mentioned dating anyone else, and he asked for permission to engage in intimate thoughts about me. He even requested pictures. At that time, I was completely comfortable with it because he was so perfect and kind to me, like, genuinely so good, a total green flag. I thought he could never hurt me. One day, he shared that he wanted to marry me and suggested we should get married. I was incredibly excited, and we discussed the details, including how difficult it might be. Given that we had always joked around, I asked, "Are you serious? Why would you want to marry someone you don't love?" I wanted him to elaborate. He continually reassured me that he wanted me and that he was in love with me and so on. However, days later, I realized I had to ask him what we actually were. Even my friend insisted this was silly because he kept following and talking to other girls while acting single during his streams, so I went ahead and asked. When I did, he said, "You are my best friend," and I was stunned. What did he mean we were just friends after everything we had shared? He then clarified that we were not dating or lovers, despite having professed his love to me. He mentioned he had feelings but wasn't sure if they were genuine, saying he didn't know if he meant everything he had said or not. He insisted he didn't see us as lovers because he couldn't envision himself with anyone. I went crazy over the sexual aspect, feeling like he viewed me merely as a physical object. I knew he had a past, and I don't, which is significant for me. So, I questioned why he casually entertained these thoughts when he claimed he wanted to marry me. I accused him of being a player and a liar, as he treated me like his girlfriend while sending mixed signals, despite me being his best friend and favorite person. He kept apologizing and got defensive about the player thing, claiming he never thought of me that way. Regarding marriage, he dismissed it, saying friends can get married. It was just future assumptions. I became so upset that I blocked him everywhere for a week. Eventually, we spoke again, and I cried because it was incredibly tough. He meant everything to me, and I couldn't eat or sleep for the entire week. To make matters worse, I lost my grandma that week, leaving me at my lowest. He kept calling himself a bad person, lamenting his behavior and expressing confusion. I forgave him, and we resumed our friendship. It's now been a month since we reconciled. At first, it felt like nothing had changed, things were great. But then suddenly, he began acting strangely, as if there were another girl. I trust my instincts. He stopped texting me as frequently and didn't call or FaceTime me like before. He even tried to avoid being alone with me on voice chat. We use Discord, constantly inviting friends along. His demeanor toward me shifted. After ignoring him for 2 days, he became frantic, and when I told him he was acting weird, he replied, "I told you I'm going through a mental breakdown," revealing he was struggling. He is bipolar. He pleaded with me to never change toward him, and I assured him I'd remain the same. However, it felt like he treated our bond as insignificant. I'm lying to myself, claiming we are still friends, but it pains me deeply because it felt real, and I'm still processing what happened while harboring resentment without expressing it. One reason I've held on is that he seems to have these confusing feelings, yet his actions tell a different story. He has followed more girls on Instagram and casually mentioned things in voice chat with his friends, such as using Tinder and wanting to meet a new girl. Knowing his insecurities and need for female attention, he is very lustful. I thought it was utterly disrespectful. I saw him liking a reel stating, "Whoever makes me fall in love again is the greatest," along with other hurtful reels. It feels like he seeks out new girls while leaving me waiting on the sidelines. Connecting the dots, I realized he just doesn't want me, despite saying he wanted me just 2 days before our conflict. I don't understand, and I even told him he might have a personality split because of his confusing behavior. He never changed and likely never will, always searching for something new. Girls, he is a Sagittarius, by the way, haha, I've been reading about that. I've contemplated removing him from my life. I've been ghosting him for 3 days now, claiming I'm tired and want to be alone, but it's incredibly hard. I want you to understand how deeply attached I am to him and how I view him as my everything. He has been there for me through thick and thin. I even consider him my soulmate because we only met once at a wedding when we were 17 and we're now 23-24, since his aunt, who is my age, was my best friend in high school. Regardless, even my friend who previously insisted he was a good person for me has been saying he is the worst, a liar, and a manipulator. She believes I should respect myself and move on because it has been so exhausting, even though I feel happiest when I'm with him. I don't know what to do now. I've been distant with him. I know I should walk away, but I need him in my life too, while also needing to preserve my self-respect. I know he will inquire about what's wrong, and I can't just tell him how I feel. He knows what he's doing, right? I've drafted a long message in my notes, and I'm contemplating whether to send it or not.